Hey guys, so have you thought about flipping a house? What goes into it? All of that. I have an awesome guest here with me today. Scott, he has done tons of investment deals, flipper houses. So he's going to join us and he's going to give us tips and tricks about what he's seen happen and go through that stuff. Now, stay tuned until the end because I'm going to give you a very great tip that will help you save money if you are looking to flip. So tell us a little bit about yourself. What was your very first investment?
Just raw land in high school.
In high school. So you started out in high school.
Well, right after high school, yes.
Okay. How did that come up?
A teacher had told me to either pick between buying a new car or land and to see which one would be worth more in the end.
And which one was worth more in the end to you?
Oh, land.
Okay. Well, obviously by his apparel here, we can't judge him for being a Georgia fan. That's just kind of one of the things. But we'll take that as some pretty decent sound advice there. So you did that. Now, I know that you got in really big on Lake Wedowee before it was fully developed. So what was that like? When you were developing land on Lake Wedowee and making that. So, I mean, that was your first big project, right?
No.
I thought that was your first big moneymaker was buying and doing developments on Lake Wedowee.
No.
Well, what was your first big moneymaker other than buying land out of high school?
I bought land my whole life.
So what was your big moment then?
I don't know. There's been a bunch of them.
Okay. Well, okay. What's the most money that you've made on a flip house?
I ain't telling you that.
He's a great one for a webinar. Well, I'll tell you on a recent flip that I did, me and my partner went in together and we each made around $24,000 and only put in, I would say, $7,000 of work and then made that. So that was some pretty decent money. Do you think you've made more? Do you think it's more profitable to flip land or to flip houses?
Right now, houses.
Why do you say that?
Because they're in more demand.
They're in more demand. Okay. So I know you've done a ton over the years. So how do you find these deals?
People come up to me, run ads, stuff like that.
And that's been pretty successful for you to find different ones?
Yes.
Okay. So you're using those kinds of things to find them. What methods are you using to sell them? I mean, I know I've sold a couple for you, so I know he obviously uses real estate agents, but I know you've done some on your own. So what methods are you using?
Facebook, Craigslist, word of mouth.
Okay.
People find out.
Okay. So we know that when you're starting out as a new investor, there can be tons of mistakes and errors that you kind of have to learn from. So what are some of the biggest mistakes that you have made, when buying an investment property or something like that?
Not having a septic tank.
Not having a septic tank. Oh. Oh, goodness. So not having a septic tank. So how did that work out for you?
Well, you had to put a septic tank in there.
Yeah. And so that was the biggest mistake that you've ever made.
Well, not to spread yourself too thin.
And you mean by buying too many properties or what?
Yes. Having too many going at one time.
Well, I would think that's the problem for the average person, but yeah, I can see if you're getting a lot of things. I know one time in the flip that I was doing, I made a mistake. We thought we could save money by getting the peel and stick laminate looking floors instead of the actual hard laminate. And we put that all over this house, and it was a vacant house and it was wintertime. And because there wasn't enough heat, these things kept popping up everywhere. And we would go in and try to nail them. And it just really ruined the look of it, really ruined the look of the floors. And so that is one mistake I will never make. I will never, ever use the steel and peel and stick tiles again because they look terrible. That was probably one of my biggest mistakes. I also made a mistake with the septic tank. That one house did not have it, and I did not check that, but we were able to make that happen. So what is something that you learned from these mistakes? Has it changed the way you do things?
Not really.
So you still spread yourself too thin?
Yep, probably.
Well, I learned I don't make my same mistake twice. They say doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results is insanity. So that explains your hat, I guess. Well, that is something that I've definitely kind of learned. Now, I know that you have, because I've done this as well, owner finance, but I know that you have owner finance. So can you tell us a little bit about some experiences you've had with that? Like, okay, well, let me tell you what owner financing is for those that are listening in. So owner financing is when typically the person does not have a credit score that's good enough to buy a home or whatnot. And so the owner will owner finance that house for them, and they are the bank. So you give a down payment and then you pay every month to get caught up. Now, these deals are really hard to find. They're very few and far between, really rare. But you can make pretty good money as the seller if you're willing to hold on to it for a long time. But instead of doing a flip and making a quick $40,000, you've got to hold on to that home for 15, 30 years to finally get your money back. You get more money, but you have to hold on longer. So have you done several of those? And how has that worked out? Or do you prefer just to do the flips, or what's that like?
It on a basis of what it is. I've done both, but the only thing with owner financing, sometimes you get them back.
And how is that? I mean, is that a good thing when you get them back or not? Or
sometimes it ain't, because they're not worth what you sold them for.
If the economy's gone down or something. Because some of the things with these that helps with investors, if you get a big down payment and they keep it for a few years and they've made these high payments and then you get it back, you've got a home plus all this money that you've made into it, and it can be a good thing. But like he's saying, if the economy's gone down and they've ruined the property that you have, that can be, a really bad thing. So when you've done some of your flips, what are ways that you've saved money? Because flips can get really expensive when you're looking at them. So what are ways that you've saved money?
I do most of the work myself.
Okay, so you don't use a lot of contractors.
Generally not.
Okay, so that's going to save you a ton of money. I do have a video that I will upload that you guys that I was promising you that is going to show you a big way to save money. I have done, like I said, several flips before, and a cheap thing that I do are the kitchen cabinets. And you can use your own supplies and paint and update them yourself, and that will save you a bunch of money. I know you guys have painted some of your cabinets yourself and saved some money.
Yeah.
But I have a video about that, so I'll share that with you guys at the end to give you some inspiration if you're looking at doing that. So you've saved some money, you've done a lot of things. Surely with all of this stuff that you've done, you've had some interesting stories come up with flipping houses. What would you think would be your most interesting story?
It wasn't with a house, though. It was with land.
Okay, well, what was that?
When the landowner next to me threatened me with a gun because we had cut one of her trees.
Cut one of her trees?
A little sapling, yeah, the surveyor did.
And what did she threaten you to do?
To shoot us.
And so how did y'all resolve that?
We bought her out.
Well, there you go. You want to get something done, pull a gun and make somebody buy your land. Did that one end up doing well for you guys?
Very.
Okay. Well, that would be a pretty good thing. Okay, so let's see. So we've got some of that. You've got some interesting story. I can't really think of anything that interesting with me. I've come into a couple of situations I wish I really wasn't in. And I'll tell you one thing. One home that I was flipping, I've had the people that knew how much the house was before then get kind of upset and mad and yell at me and call me some names. But I mean, that's not really that interesting. I get called names all the time. But okay, so when you're looking at buying a house, like what are some of the big things that you want to look at before buying? Like when you go in there to look at it, what are the first things you're looking at?
To see if it's been updated at all, if it's an older house.
Okay.
On the electric, plumbing.
Okay. And let me ask you this. If it hasn't been updated, is that a no-go or just more money you guys spend?
And again, it depends on what all's involved, but sometimes you have to add that into your cost.
Okay. What else?
You sure want to stay away from asbestos.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's going to be in typically your older homes is where you're going to find that. Now, I do know, going back on what he said with the electric, one of the homes that that I was recently listing for him, it had the older electric in it, and we didn't really get on that. Didn't know it was going to be as big of a deal when we first were looking at listing it, but because of that, it had to be sold as is because of the electric things and knowing that was kind of an issue. So that's definitely big. And that can, how much would you say it would cost to rewire a whole house?
About $10,000.
Yeah, so that's a big expense, something big that you want to look for. I know when I'm looking, and one that we went and looked at for you to purchase recently, it had foundation issues, and that is something that you do not want to mess with. And so where you can find the foundation, especially if it's on a basement, look for the cracks in the basement. Look for them running across floors, because if there are big cracks, that means there's typically foundation issues. It could have settled maybe, but that is a really big expense. And a lot of your modern loans will not cover foundation issues. So that's something huge to watch out for. Okay. And then so that's some big issues. So what are some of the small issues that you've had to address? Are there any small things that you've had to address, and a lot of them that aren't really that big of a deal, but you kind of notice a trend?
Mainly plumbing.
Okay. So plumbing's been the thing. I guess you paint all of yours. I mean, pretty much,
Yeah.
right? Most of them get painted. I know that I've seen some really great before and afters of painting the outsides, the brick. So some of the older brick and getting that painted white or gray really makes a difference. And that's a good way to do it. So, okay, if you're looking at getting started as an investor and you're wanting to do your first thing, what would you say is the most important thing you would need when flipping?
Money.
Money. Okay, so there you go. Saving up money.
Knowledge.
Okay, because like you're saying, if you were to go into this blindly and make some of these mistakes, that's going to end up costing you, pretty big, and then you're kind of stuck owner financing. I mean, I know I've kind of gotten in that situation. My husband was looking at a house for us to buy, and we wanted to flip it as an investment, but there were just so many factors with this house that would not have made it a feasible investment. So we decided that it would have to be owner finance. That was the only option. It just had to be owner finance. So looking at a couple of those big ones would be good. What would you say is the one thing that you need to not have when flipping? Is there anything that you need to make sure you do not have this trait if you are going to be flipping houses?
Can't be scared.
Yeah. Can't be scared. Does it take a lot of patience?
Very.
A lot of patience. And I would think, you do need to know a general know-how of doing something, because if you hire out a contractor for every single thing, you're going to miss a lot of the profit there.
Right.
So I would say that's pretty big. What about curb appeal and stuff like that? Do you spend a lot of time doing landscaping or anything to that nature?
Depending on the house and the subdivision.
Okay. Because I know the most recent one I'm thinking of that we closed on, you did a little bit. You did some mulch and did a little bit of landscaping there, and it made a really big difference. But he also painted the outside of the house that looked well too. But I know the landscaping and stuff made a really big deal. Okay. Well, do you have any final tips for anyone that's looking to invest, or any other knowledge that you've learned over the years?
Find another occupation.
Well, he says that, but I love it. I love to flip. I love the rush you get, the things like that. I actually enjoy it. And I mean, he's done pretty well. So I don't think he has any complaints on that either. If you have any experience, let us know in the bottom. We would love to hear that. I'm going to be featuring this video, so check it out. Give you some tips on how to save money on your next flip. And as always, I'm your unicorn agent, turning your dreams into reality. All right. Yes.